Here in the police station behind me, there's more than 80 Tibetans picked up today by police and detained here. This is getting to be a familiar pattern. For most of the past 11 days, Tibetan exiles here in Kathmandu have staged protests against Chinese rule. Police have frequently beaten them hard with batons and on occasions used tear gas and inflicted head wounds on people. Human Rights Watch says that one man last week was beaten so hard that both his feet were fractured. It says others have been forced to sign statements that they wouldn't protest anymore or else they might be deported back to China, back to Tibet. The organisation says, how can a government, referring to Nepal, a government that came to power on the wave of popular protests against authoritarian rule, justify crushing peaceful protests by Tibetans? Now, the Home Ministry spokesman, Raj Dotel here, has told me that Nepal cannot allow what it calls anti-China protests because it follows a one China policy, recognizing Tibet as an integral part of China. He says that he hasn't heard reports of broken bones and that the police have instructions to observe human rights, but he says these protests have been causing an obstruction. He says we are constrained by our circumstances, which is a reflection of this small country's dependence on the goodwill of its very large neighbour. Police did admit to me last week that every time there's demonstrations like this, he said we get continual requests from both the Chinese embassy and the Chinese authorities not to allow these demonstrations to happen.
Charles Haviland will stay with us on World News Today. The